So let's start with the receipts. We told you, or I told you, that the receipts will be covered by section 28 or 41. In this particular topic, we are going to be looking at section 28. 41 we will do along with expenses. When you look at section 28, it's not just one particular line that says this income is taxable as business receipt. He's talking about a lot of sub clauses of section 28. Therefore, we need to actually take up each of these sub clauses slowly. But let's look at the first one. Very simple. So the profit and gains of any business or profession which was carried on by the assessee at any time during the previous year. And when you look at profit and gains, it will obviously include a loss. Now there are two words that are important here: business and profession. So in this topic and a few other subtopics, we'll be looking at only section 28 clause 1 because it's the widest of them all. Any business or profession. The rest, of course, we will come to. Let's go to the first part. Now I told you the word business is defined under section 213 and it includes any trade, commerce, manufacture or adventure or concern in the nature of trade, commerce or manufacture. Some of them are very simple. One is of course trade, normal buying and selling, commerce, which could include services and trade on a larger scale. Manufacture, of course, is making new things. Or, and that's the important one, any adventure or concern in the nature of trade or commerce. Now, adventure. So is he talking about rock climbing, bungee jumping? No, he's talking about adventure in the nature of trade. So, his logic is adventure comes once in a while. You don't go on an adventure on a daily basis. Adventure in the nature of trade, which means a one-odd activity, something that is not regular. Business is something that is regularly done. Adventure is something that is not regularly done but has elements of trade, and income from that activity will also come under business and profession. Obviously, you could not have understood that in just this 2 minutes of discussion. So we will of course dedicate a complete topic on adventure in the nature of trade. At the moment, we are looking at business, which includes trade, commerce, manufacture. Now, my question is business carried on by only companies, or can sole proprietary concerns be doing business? Can firms be doing business? Can HUF be doing business? So any person, which can include companies, firms, LLP, of course, proprietary concerns, HUFs, and I'm just going to use the word etc. So any person could be into business. But when we look at profession, so this is business. Profession is generally associated with an individual. So generally we say individuals and certain professional bodies like ICAI, the Institute of Company Secretaries, the Bar Council of India, they generally allow firms, because in firms there is unlimited liability. Unlimited liability. Each person, individual, is a part of the responsible entity towards the liabilities of the firm. So generally profession is carried out, and I'm using the word generally, profession is carried out only by firms or individuals. So you can have a firm of chartered accountants, you can't have a company of chartered accountants, you have a proprietary concern of chartered accountants. So professional bodies will allow only these entities to be covered by the definition of the word professional. So as regards person, business can be any person, profession of course is only by certain entities here. But of course there will be certain exceptions we might discuss as we move on. Now what are the activities? For example, business, we say, can be trading, it can be manufacture, it can be service as well. You have banking business, you have transportation business, you have money lending business. These are service related businesses. But professional is obviously only service oriented. You have doctors, lawyers, chartered accountants. But you know, with profession, we are actually going to be associating a word called skill. I'm going to divide them into two parts. One is a natural skill. The other, of course, is acquired skill. Generally, when you acquire a skill, you either get a degree or a diploma. Natural skill, no one's going to give you any credit, right? Actually, they might give you credit, but there's going to be no degree. You have Virat Kohli playing cricket. It's a skill. It's a natural skill. Question is, does he have a degree to play cricket? Arijit Singh, he sings. It's a natural skill. Does he have a degree to, well, sing? Why go further? Well, I'm teaching. And, you know, what you must remember is most of the people teaching you don't have the B.Ed degree. Sorry, huh? But we are not equipped to teach. At least we don't have a degree to teach. It's a natural skill, they say. So, natural skill is what we call vocation. Not vocation, vocation, natural ability. Acquired is your CA degree, which you are acquiring. CS degree, medical degree, lawyer's degree, engineer's degree. All these are acquired skills. When you earn income from both these skills, whether natural or acquired, it is going to go under the head business and profession because it is covered by section 2 subsection 36. So profession, he says, required some degree of specialized knowledge acquired. Profession includes vocation, which means a natural ability of a person for some particular work with or without the motive to earn profit. But what we have to understand is that the word business and profession will acquire different meanings as we go on. I told you one. 194J says whenever you're making a payment to a professional, you will deduct TDS under 194J. In case of businessmen, in case of manufacturing, sale of goods, there is no provision for TDS. Secondly, even in business, manufacturing business gets more provisions for deductions or higher deductions or rated deductions because manufacturing is one of the primary sectors or the secondary sector as we call it, agriculture being the primary sector. Manufacturing is important, make in India. So manufacturing sector is likely to get maybe higher depreciation, additional depreciation, certain deductions under chapter 80, C to 80U sections. We have profit-based deductions available to manufacturers only at times. So when we go and look, I'm going to just take you through a few sections because you know the word professional itself has been defined differently in different sections of the Act. And we will discuss as we move on. If you look at the word profession, one is 213. Now this is there for determining which head of income. So Virat Kohli's income is going to go as business and profession. Now if Virat Kohli earns income from, let's say, BCCI is giving him money, is he an employee of BCCI? No, he has a contract. He's providing services to BCCI. He's not an employee. He's a professional. Virat Kohli also gets money, let's say for an advertisement he does, or an article he writes in the newspaper. Is that going to go as other sources? No, remember, adventure in the nature of trade is also a part of business, which means one odd activity or activities incidental to business or profession are also going to be covered as income from business and profession. So Virat Kohli's income from playing cricket or getting an advertisement because of cricket or writing articles because of cricket are all covered under the head business and profession. Section 213 determines which head your income goes. Section 917, remember we talked about fees for technical service. There is a deemed accrual. Yes, so fees for technical service, if you are receiving from a resident of India or the government of India or a non-resident where the services are utilized in India, is always deemed to accrue or rise in India. In case of government, whether utilized in India or not, they are again deemed to accrue or rise in India. Now, in section 917, he does not differentiate between professional fees and technical fees. So over there, all these fees are covered. Whether professional, technical, doesn't matter. but that was to determine whether the receipt is Indian or foreign and whether it is accessible in India or not. Now, when we come to business and profession, technical fees, professional fees might go as business and profession, and there might be a difference as we move on. Then he says 44AA. This is a section that talks about maintenance of books of accounts. भाई किसको किताबें रखना essential है under the Income Tax Act, and you'll be surprised to know it is only a businessman or certain professionals who are required to maintain books, which means people into only rental income from house property are not required. People only having income from capital gains are not required. Salary employees are not required. And when we read 44AA, he talks about specified professionals and non-specified professionals, which means he is defining professionals again. So therefore, for maintenance of books of accounts, we'll have to go and read a specific definition of professionals there again. 44AD, now these are presumptive sections. Remember, a 6% or 8% deemed income. 44AD says any business with a turnover not exceeding 2 crore, does not need to maintain books, does not need to show expenditure. Just take the turnover into 8% or 6%, and that's your income. That's what you will be taxed on. But that section is applicable only to businessmen. It is not applicable to professionals covered by 44, mentioned under 44AA. It is not applicable to professionals mentioned under 44AA. So we will have to read that very carefully. 44ADA talks about a professional, where he says 50% of turnover or receipts is deemed income if the aggregate receipts do not exceed 50 lakhs. This one is applicable only to a professional, not to a businessman. 194J obviously on payments to professionals, and the definition of professionals under 194J is again different. Wake up. You can't just say professional. You have to talk about which section professional. So I've given you just a summary, and by the time we go through this course, all this should be clear to you. This was only meant to wake you up to understand. You can't just get up and say business and profession. Business, what type of business? Profession, what type of profession? And then, I also told you that certain, when we look at depreciation, additional depreciation is given only to a manufacturer. So everybody's going to get up and say, look, I am manufacturing. Somebody says, what is manufacture? He says, manufacture is when we pick up raw material. There is a process and there is finished goods. So there is a new thing that comes into existence. So if there is a person who is photocopying, he says, I put in a blank sheet of paper. I have photocopy process, and look, there is output. I am also manufacturing. One of the cooks says, or a restaurant says, look, we pick up vegetables. We process them in the method of cooking. And look, there is a new dish that comes. I am also manufacturing. Why are they doing this? Because they want to claim benefits given only to a manufacturer. So a lot of litigation on the word manufacture as well. Let's look at the definition given in the Act. He says manufacture with its grammatical variations means change in a non-living physical object, article or thing, resulting in transformation of the object or article or thing into a new and distinct object or article or thing having a different name, character and use. Transformation, change of the object into a new object having a distinct name, character and use. So it's not a very specific definition. Again, this is open to interpretation. Agade hoenge. Bringing into existence of a new and distinct object with a different chemical composition or integral structure. So you pick up wool and you weave it into sweaters. That is again manufacture, because there is a new and distinct object coming into existence. But is building a house also covered here? No. So question is, manufacture की definition पे ही इतना debate होगा. My point right now is we are not starting the debate. We are saying manufacture, he says, is this. We are going to look at a few case laws to try and sum it up to understand what is manufacture, because manufacturer gets certain advantages that others don't. Now the case study to understand how people are actually going to be fighting to get their particular process within the definition of manufacture, because I just told you additional depreciation, ADIC, ADIA, IB, lot of sections available specifically to manufacturers. Let's look at the first one better. He says where an assessee was engaged in the business of embroidery, work on synthetic fabrics on job work basis. Okay, so what is the assessee doing? The assessee is doing embroidery on synthetic fabric, and that too on job work basis. Now he wants to claim additional depreciation, but he has to come within the definition of manufacture. We've just done section 2 subsection 29BA. It says transformation or bringing into existence any new product with a distinct name, character and use. So the judge is going to sit back and say, okay, is this process coming within that definition? And the judge says, he says work of embroidery carried on by the assessee would fall within the ambit of definition of manufacture, and thereby it was entitled to avail additional depreciation on embroidery machine installed. And this is a judgment of Gujarat High Court in 2015. He says activity of extraction of granite boulders from hills and producing granite aggregate of different sizes by crushing and segregating through mechanical process amounts to manufacture within the meaning of section 229BA. Why? There is granite in the hills. You are extracting it. And then of course you are making it into granites of different sizes. He says there is a new product with a distinct name, character and use. Therefore, it is falling in the definition of manufacture and is eligible for all the benefits which are available to manufacturers. Let's look at one more. Activity of making natural fragrance, the perfumes, right? By mixing and steaming different floral distilled oil is a manufacturing activity eligible for deduction under ATIC. Like you just said, I told you, there is going to be debate. So a person is only mixing oil and flower flavors to arrive at perfumes. That is obviously going to come within the definition of manufacture. Why the debate? Because I told you the AO is going to always read the law with the aim of denying the benefit. क्योंकि उसको tax चाहिए. But the assessee is going to read the law with the aim of claiming the benefit. And that is why whenever there is ambiguity, whenever there is more than one interpretation, there is going to be jhagda, and there we go and get the judgments. And these judgments will help you understand the intention of how to be able to answer and how to be able to give advice to your client. So in the paper, I would want you to keep it in mind. New product, change in existing product, to bring about something which has a distinct name, character and use, and then use your own understanding and analysis to give your opinion. And your opinion, well, 90% if you understood the law will match the intention of legislature. One of the more important discussions that you and me are going to have is this topic. In the papers, a lot of questions are going to ask you which head will the receipt go under. Now I want you to understand what is the problem here. So we're going to look at business first. What is business? Business is something that you do regularly. Maybe I could be investing regularly as well. So ultimately we are looking at the difference between two words, business and investment. Now, for example, I'm manufacturing shoes and I do it on a daily basis. I have workers, I have employees. You will have no problem saying that, sir, of course, you are into business. What if I have a seasonal business? Maybe I extract honey and I sell it 3 months a year. I do it every year. I do it regularly for 6, 7 years. But I do it only 3 months a year. Is that a business? Because business is something that is done regularly. And regularly does not mean throughout the year. Regularly does not mean throughout the year. Regularly means continuously. Even if you're doing it 3 months a year or 4 months a year, that is also business. Now, what is the basic difference between investment and business? I want you to think about it. So, for example, I am buying and selling shares. Now, if I'm buying and selling shares and it is my investment, then remember the sale will go in capital gains. But if I'm buying and selling shares and it is my stock in trade, then the sale price goes under business and profession. By now, you and me are decided on the fact that the dividend on shares will always go as income from other sources, whether the shares are held as stock in trade or as investment. But of course, the selling price will be different. So how do I know? How do I know whether I'm dealing in shares or investing in shares? Similarly, I could be buying land and selling it. I could be buying again and selling it. Does that make it my business? Or is it still my capital gains? Because remember, long-term capital gains is taxable at 20%. Business income will be taxable at rates as applicable, which could be slab rates. Or in case of companies and firms, a higher rate of 30 or 40%. So it's going to be a very, very, very major question to decide which head it's going to go under. So let's also ask a few questions to each other. The mode is such that let me ask a question, but you should be thinking about the answer. Now, when I put money in a bank and I'm earning interest, it's a passive income. And this is the more important word I wanted to understand, passive income. Which means I am not working towards the interest. My money is earning me money. I have put money in the bank. It's an investment. I'm getting a return, which is my interest. Now let's change it. I am into money lending business. Therefore, what I do is I have a team of people. There are people who are going to call people and trouble them in the afternoons and tell them, sir, we have money to lend. You please take loans. I give advertisements in the paper and I lend money and I earn interest. So what is the difference you see in these two interests? One was passively earned. One is actively earned, and these two words must stay with you, and that is the actual differentiator between investment income and business income. Take another one. I buy land and I leave it. After a little while, because of market demand and supply, the price of land increases and I sell it. What is it? Investment income. Therefore, the sale of land over here will go as income from capital gains, because this was passively earned. I did not do any active work. Now imagine I buy the land, I cut the land into plots, I make roads, I provide for sanitation, I provide electricity, street lights, and then I sell the plots. I have an office, I have employees. Yes, of course, by now you are telling me the right answer. This is going to go as business income. So please understand, the main difference is active income is business, passive income is investment. Sale of assets held as investment goes as capital gains. Sale of assets used for business goes as business and profession. Let's go further. Sometimes the problem is not between capital gains and business. Sometimes the problem is between other sources and business. Let's take examples. I am into leasing of tents, into leasing of furniture, generators, for marriages. I do that on a regular basis. I have an office. Now I'm leasing assets. Is this lease income taxable as business income or as other sources? Business income, because it's an active income. Now, what if I say I have one generator at home and the park near my house, there is a wedding going on. And suddenly at the time of the Varmala, the light goes. Now the groom and the bridegroom are worried they might not put the garland in someone else's neck. So they come running to my house and say, sir, do you have a generator? I have a generator. So they say, sir, could you lend it to us? I said, why lend it? I'm a chartered accountant. I have an opportunity here. So I'm going to lease it to you. I'm going to charge 10,000. Now that's a one odd activity that I did. And maybe sometimes when people need it, they take it from me. I keep doing it once in a while. Is this lease income taxable as business income? No. This now goes as other sources. There is no sale involved here. But over here, it goes as income from other sources. Again, I think the differentiator is active and passive. So let's now sum it up. We say we need to differentiate between investment and business. If it is investment, sale will go as capital gains and other sources will be involved here for revenue income. And if it is business, then sale will go as business income and even the revenue income earned will be business income. Let's also further look at some of the other criteria that you might need to try and differentiate. One of the criteria that is also important is the commodity. Okay, for example, can you invest in handkerchief? No. Can you invest in jewelry? Yes. Can you trade in jewelry? Yes. Can you invest in shares? Yes. Can you trade in shares? Yes. Can you invest in land? Can you trade in land? So beta, there are certain commodities that can be both invested in and traded in. But you can't invest in handkerchief or rasgulla or gulab jamun. You can only trade in them. So maybe that's an easy differentiation, the asset involved, which will help you decide immediately whether it's a trade or it's investment. So if I sell handkerchief, it's definitely not going to go into capital gains. But if I'm manufacturing handkerchief and selling them, that's my business income. What if what I do is I'm manufacturing shoes and only one activity, I buy handkerchief and I sell them in a quantity which is large enough, but it's a one odd activity, never done regularly. Now the problem is the income from sale of handkerchief going to go as other sources or as business income? So here is where the topic that we are doing is involved, adventure in the nature of trade. He says, and let's read that. Section 213 refers to adventure in the nature of trade, a single transaction outside the course of assessee's business. In our example, we were manufacturing shoes. Handkerchief is a single transaction outside the course of assessee's business. May, and I'm not saying shall, constitute an adventure in the nature of trade, depending upon circumstances. So let's look at the circumstances that we need to look at. For example, he says that a person engaged in manufacture of clothes buys and sells jewelry. Now there is a problem. He says he is engaged in the manufacture of clothes. He buys and sells jewelry. The issue raised is whether the profit or loss will be computed under section 45, capital gains, or section 28. Similarly, would the answer be the same if the purchase and sale of jewelry was carried out by a salaried employee? See, another angle is coming to the entire story. We've looked at activity, we've looked at commodity. Now let's look at the third factor that will help you decide, and that is the person doing it. So we say, some of the principles of finding whether income is an adventure in the nature of trade or income from investment taxable as capital gains, or we can say going as income from other sources, have been laid down in the judgment of Michael A. Kalyavalil. Now that's a judgment that we will look at in a little more detail here. One, of course, is the person trading. कौन कर रहा है? So if it's a salaried employee that has bought land or jewelry or shares or handkerchief and sold it, I'm going to treat that as a non-trading activity. I'm going to treat that as either capital gains or other sources. But if it's a businessman who's already doing business, is entering into a side transaction, a single transaction, could be jewelry, could be land, could be handkerchief, then that will go normally as adventure in the nature of trade. But of course, we will go further. He says, in case of a businessman, the first presumption will be that the single transaction is in the nature of trade and not an investment. In case of a non-businessman, the first presumption is that the activity is the nature of investment. Then he says commodity, whether it is a commodity which is generally traded in or not. For example, land is not generally traded in, whereas shares are generally traded in. So if land or commodity which generally does not form part of stock and trade, then the first presumption will be that the intention was to make an investment and not to indulge in an adventure in the nature of trade. But these are just guidelines, my dear child. Land could be traded in. There is no one answer, and don't look for one. You're becoming a chartered accountant. You will read the law, and then you will have clients coming up with different facts, different circumstances, and you will answer each of those clients separately based on the circumstances and the factors involved. But you'll have to discuss them. So what we are doing here is giving you 3 points on the basis of which you will differentiate. First is who's doing it, what is being done, and is there activity. This is the final test and probably the most important one. Whether the assessee has carried out any activity which has elements of business, if there is an activity carried out to sell and buy which resembles business. So to sum it up, we say a transaction which does not constitute business is not regular in the hands of the assessee, may be treated as investment taxable under section 45, or an adventure in the nature of trade taxable under section 28, or as income from other sources. The decisions would depend upon the facts and circumstances of each particular case. So I want you to now just go through with me and look at a few situations. So we say differentiating between two factors. One is investment and the other is business. And business includes adventure in nature of trade. Now, how do I find out? Investment income from sale of assets will go under capital gains, and revenue income may go as other sources income. Over here, of course, all incomes will go as business and profession. What are the factors that will help me decide? One, of course, is who is doing it, what commodity it is, and is there activity. Let's take both the examples that we discussed. The first one, the person was manufacturing shoes and was trading in handkerchief. Let's decide who's doing it. Businessman. 1 mark here. Handkerchief cannot come as investment. It is mainly a trading item. Therefore, it goes as business. Third, is there activity? Yes. He bought handkerchief. He's already into business. So therefore, that becomes adventure in the nature of trade, and the income goes taxable under the head business and profession. Let's now assume that this was a salaried employee. Same example. He's not manufacturing shoes. He's a salaried employee who sees the tender in the newspaper and buys and sells. Now what do? First, of course, who's it? It's not a businessman. Therefore, 1 minus. Handkerchief, of course, is not an investment item. It's here. Now comes the activity. If he has a small office and he's made the effort in purchasing it, packing it, there is activity involved in the sale, then we will take it as business income because it's adventure in the nature of trade. But if it's just a one-odd activity wherein you just bought it from one place and sold it to the other, it may also alternatively be taken as income from other sources. But again, it has to depend upon facts and circumstances of each case. It is your opinion versus the opinion of the AO. These are just factors that will help you decide. So based on these, we will have to take all our decisions. Again, land. A businessman who's manufacturing shoes has bought a piece of land. Now what do we do? And sold it after about 7-8 months. And he sold it at a profit. Or maybe sold it after 5 years and sold it at a profit or at a loss. Question is, where do I take it? So I'll come back here again. It is not his main activity. But he's a businessman. Therefore, my first assumption is that this is a trading activity. However, land is also an investable item. So therefore, I can't give it a mark here. Now, the factor that will decide is activity. Did he make any effort? Did he make any efforts to maybe alter the land, to add value to the land? Or was it just a passive activity of buying and selling? If it was passive, we will take it as capital gains. If it was active, he cut the plots and he had street lights and he constructed roads, then that will go as an adventure in the nature of trade. Now I'm going to take you through some of the case study that is going to probably help you clarify on these points. He says dominant intention of the assessee is relevant. Dominant intention, you have to judge it. The assessee is not going to tell you. You have to judge it as a chartered accountant. To determine the nature of the transaction, the dominant intention of the assessee has to be taken. If the intention is to embark on a venture in the nature of trade as distinguished from a capital investment. Okay. The second point is profit motive important while deciding capital gains or business income? No. When I'm going to be, buying an investment, it is also with the intention to earn profit. And the business is also with the intention to earn profit. So you can't say just because I earned profit, it is no longer an investment and it is now business. That is not a decisive factor. This is profit motive is not decisive. Profit motive in entering into a transaction is not decisive. For an accretion to capital does not become taxable income merely because an asset was acquired in the expectation that it may be sold at a profit. He says capital asset or capital gains cannot be converted into business just because you said he bought the asset with the aim of earning profit. That could be also an investment. Land transactions. He says where the assessee who has a business of manufacturing and exporting garments bought 10 acres of land, cut the land into smaller plots and sold the plots to different persons. Now be careful here. He bought a land, cut the land into smaller plots and sold it. Is there activity? Yes, you might say yes. But beta, if he's bought 10 hectares of land and there is no one buyer, he just cuts it into smaller pieces and sells it for ease of sale. The judge says the profit on sale of land cannot be taxed as profit from adventure in the nature of trade. It shall be taxed under the head capital gains, because he says activity is missing here. Yes, give me 1 minute. We will just come through this again. Let's do another one. He says the High Court held that selling of own land after plotting it out to secure a better price. Plotting it out. Same point. Cutting it into pieces, plotting it out to secure a better price cannot be considered as an adventure in the nature of trade. Therefore, it cannot be treated as business activity. The High Court held that such isolated activity could not come within the purview of adventure. I want you to appreciate how people are fighting whether it goes as adventure or as capital gains, because remember, capital gains, you only get deduction of cost of acquisition, cost of improvement. There is the rate of tax which is different. But under business head, you're going to get all the deductions of the business from this sale, not necessarily only the cost relating to the land. Expenditure for business, regular business expenditure will be allowed as a deduction. Then he says a solitary transaction. Actually, let me do the fourth one. He says where a person acquired land and later after developing it, understand this carefully, he's carrying on an activity resulting in profit, and the activity can only be described as a business venture. So he says where the person goes further, divides the land into plots, develops the area to make it more attractive, sells the land not as a single unit as he bought it but in parcels. He is dealing with land as stock and trade and carrying on business and making a profit. If you notice, the only difference between this judgment and the first two is that there is a word called develops the area, which is could be roads, street lights, sanitation, anything, activity. One last case we will do, a solitary transaction of purchase of land by the assessee firm doing the business of jewelers. So jewelers have bought a land, would not constitute adventure in the nature of trade, especially when land is not ordinarily a commercial commodity. It can be traded in, but you can't assume that every land is traded in. You buy land as investment as well. The mere fact that some profit was made in the transaction would not, without anything more, without any activity, indicate that the intention of the firm was to trade in land, and indeed there was nothing more to indicate the same. Therefore, I'm going to sum it up again. Person, commodity, and then the main word is activity. So whatever facts you get, you're going to apply these three checks in CIT versus Michael A. Kalyawalil and then give your opinion on it. And a few things we remember. Land खरीदा, छोटे plots काटे, बेच दिए, capital gains. Land खरीदा, सड़क बनाई, roads बनाई, and then you sell it, activity. It goes as business income.